Lessons learned from Barbara Walters. Welcome to the Hopefulist with me, Wendy McClure. This is where we turn those nasty, negative thoughts into positive and work toward a happy, fulfilled life. Now, let's get started. Happy New Year! That's right. It is 2023. Oh my goodness. How have we gotten to 2023, right? Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick update on my vow to never diet again. I'm not sure if I can stick with it. I've talked about it before. I thought about giving up. I've put on about 5 pounds since vacation, but I put about 5 pounds on vacation. So I'm up about 10 pounds and I can feel it, It's like that little tire around your belly, and I'm not loving it, but I was going to give it all up. I was just going to say, forget it. I can't do it. But I think that some of the benefits really are outweighing this feeling right now. The fact that I don't get on the scale every morning and it determines how I feel about myself each and every day. The fact that I'm not constantly worried about what the scale has to say, that I'm not measuring my self-worth over the scale, that I'm not denying myself really anything. So I think that I can start to make, now that the holidays are over, more healthy choices. And, maybe I can, I'm not going to say try and lose weight, although I'm going to try and lose weight. But I'm going to do it without trying to deny myself and, not make it all or nothing. I don't have to lose 10 pounds in the next month. I can lose 10 pounds in the next 6 months. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how slow I go. It doesn't matter how fast I go. It just matters that I go. And I get this, this thing that's been holding me down my whole life, my weight. I finally get it off my back, and I start to see myself as a person, not somebody who just weighs a certain amount. So I'm going to stick with it for now. I'm going to keep you posted. Moving on to the quote of the day. I got my brand new You Are a Badass daily calendar for Christmas. Thank you to Santa Jim. And I'm excited. So this is for January 1st. So it should be a good one, right? You tell me. There are plenty of people out there in the world living the kind of life you only dream about living, many of whom are far less fabulous and talented than you are. Now, the key to their success is that they decided to go for it. They stopped listening to their tired old excuses and changed their lousy habits. That's all it takes. We have to convince ourselves that we are worthy of what we want. And I didn't realize this for the longest time, but that is truly what holds us back the most, is that we have this mindset that we are not one of those people. When I say those people, I mean successful people, the people who have what they want in this life. We think they're special. They have something that we don't have. And that is 100% not true. So you need to talk to yourself and believe that you are worthy of all that you wish for. I know, easier said than done. But you talk to yourself. You use affirmations. You write notes to yourself on the bathroom mirror. You put Post-it notes on the refrigerator, on the dashboard of your car, and you say things like, I am brave, I am strong, I am smart, I can do anything, because it's true. And you keep saying that until you start to believe it. You can think it's all hogwash and not try it, and that's fine. Or you can try it and see what happens. That's all I'm asking. I don't know if you heard. I'm sure that you did. Barbara Walters passed away over the holidays. The age, it was 93 or 94. I'm having a hard time remembering now. But I love Barbara Walters. She did so much for women when it comes to journalism and broadcast journalism. And I, for many, many years, was in radio. So, I came up against so many issues when it came to the fact of a woman being in a man's field, because that's really still to this day what radio is. Is there women in it? Sure. Is it geared toward taking care of the men rather than the women? Yes, absolutely. And Barbara Walters, she literally got hired on the Today Show to be the woman writer. Not a woman writer, the woman writer. They hired her because they had to have one woman, and that's what they had, one woman. So she wrote about woman things, and, her jump to being on air was not something she was ever looking for. It was actually her longtime friend, Hugh Downs, who she worked with on 2020 for many years. He was on the Today Show when she was a writer. Apparently, from the special that I saw over the weekend, they had not enough models show up to do this segment that they were planning to do. And Hugh said, why don't you have Barbara do it? And she did. And from that point on, she started being in segments. And she played by their rules. Once she got to share the desk at the Today Show, she was not considered a co-host. She was Barbara. I mean, she didn't really even have a title because women were not co-hosts. So I think the number one lesson is that you have to play by the rules that are already in place before you even attempt to change things. Now, I know things aren't as bad as they were back then, and we're allowed to actually speak up. When I say we, I mean women. But there are still a lot of things that need work on. Okay, let's just put it that way. There's a lot of things that still have a long way to go. And sometimes we have to play by the rules that are in place before we attempt to change things. And I don't think Barbara Walters even intended to change things. She was just trying to do what was best for her. The other thing that you have to keep in mind, Barbara Walters was known as, I think, the first news person to make $1 million. And people hated her for that. Kind of crazy. But she was also working with this Harry Reasoner guy as a co-host on the evening news. And as she puts it, he didn't want to co-host at all, let alone a woman. And they showed some of the clips, and he was so clearly, had such a distaste for her that he would make all of these rude comments on the air, and she would just smile and laugh a little and then move on. And she had to do that live on the air. Wow, that is impressive. She had to do that for many, many years. Now, part of her contract when she signed up to do the evening news was to do these 1-hour specials, which, of course, became the Barbara Walters special. Excuse me. That's also became the Oscar special. And she would do the most fascinating people. And if you think about it, nobody has even tried to take that on. They have just gone away ever since her retirement. And that's what really made her, in my opinion. And if you watched any of the specials or if you read her book, her autobiography is called Audition. I read it many, many years ago when it came out. And it is fantastic. And she, when it came to these interviews that she did, she was so overprepared. And I remember this by reading it in her book. She wrote 50 to 100 questions for each 1-hour interview, which you maybe get to like 10, maybe 15 at the most. She would write 50 to 100 questions. It would take her days. Then she would spend days organizing the the flow of the questions and what order she would ask these questions. She would do this for days. They had meetings upon meetings upon meetings about it. She said that she would have somebody that would come in and deliver lunch, and she'd say to them, hey, I am going to be interviewing Barbara Streisand. Do you have a question that you would want her to answer? And she's like, and I'm being serious. And sometimes they would shuffle the thing again. And then this is the mark of a true professional. She would know her subject and all of their background in such detail that she really didn't even need the questions. I saw an interview that she did with Donald Trump way back in like 1990, and she says in this interview, I talked to your bankers. Okay, now that is research, okay? When you're talking to the bankers of the person that you're going to interview, that is being overly prepared. But it also put her in a position where when he tried to feed her BS, she said, that's not true. I talked to your bankers. So being overly prepared is what helped her be so good at what she did in the interview process. And the other thing that was so fascinating, and I've done this myself, and, tooting my own horn a little bit, I'm a pretty good interviewer. And I think one of the best traits of a good interview or a good interviewer is actually listening to the answers of the question. And sometimes what that would cause is you to throw out the rest of your questions. There was many times I was doing an interview where I had a bunch of questions ready to go, and from the first answer I got, it took me off into a completely different direction because it was an answer that I really didn't anticipate or really thought about, and that just changed everything. It just made the whole interview go in a completely different direction, and when you're so overly prepared, that's completely okay. So that's another lesson that we learned from Barbara Walters. Also, what she did is she proved that once you do the hard work, once you play by those rules, and once you grin and bear it and, be the bigger person, then you have the clout and you have the power to do what you really want to do. And what she wanted to do was The View. Now, love or hate The View, it's been around for 20 plus years. I was a pretty big fan of it in its early years. I haven't watched much in the last couple of years. It's been very controversial. It's the first of its kind. It was the first show that had a bunch of women sitting around a table talking about everyday happenings, stuff that was going on in the news and politics and movies, celebrities, what have you. And they would just chat about it. And now there's all of these takeoffs from that, the Real, the Talk. They have other ones as well. And The View was the original. And that was an idea that she had. And she wanted to see it come to fruition. And she did. And she didn't get involved in most of the screaming matches, shall we say. I mean, she would sit at the table. She would contribute. But, and they explained this in one of the specials I saw over the weekend, that I guess the producer of 2020, which she was still doing, didn't want her to be the so-called moderator. And, the moderator is the person who introduces the topics, and, they have the ability to say, okay, we're moving on now. Like, they're the one in charge, basically. And Meredith Vieira was that person in the very beginning. It then was Rosie O'Donnell for a while, and it's been Whoopi Goldberg for a very long time. And they didn't want her to do that part because they thought that it would detract from her hard news image and reputation. They didn't want to so-called sully that. Again, because, in my opinion, because a bunch of women sitting around a table talking is not considered serious. So we didn't want to sully her reputation with something as silly as women sitting around talking, right? You get what I'm saying, I think. So, she really wanted this to happen, and she did so well. And the special showed the last day that she had on The View, and I had forgotten this, but I did watch it when it was happening. All of the women that she influenced and touched, and so many women were there that day. I think the only one missing was, and I don't think she was there, Oprah Winfrey. But, Barbara Walters had done interviews with Oprah before, and Oprah said, yeah, you're the reason that I thought I could be on TV. Because I saw you, and I was like, she's a woman. Maybe I can do that too. So, Oprah has very openly said that she was a huge influence in her life. But I don't think that she was on that last day for The View. But I had just mentioned her recently, maybe a month or so ago. It wasn't that long ago, to my husband. I said, I wonder what's going on with Barbara Walters. We haven't heard a thing about her in years. Now, I don't really know. It's been rumored that she had dementia pretty bad, and some people are saying that it looked like she was having some issues when she was still on The View. So I just, I'm not sure how the last couple of years of her life was. I think it was 2016 when she retired. I think, gosh, time is just flying, right? 2016, now it's 2023. It's kind of crazy. But, I'm a big fan of Barbara Walters, and I look up to her, and I think that she was amazing, and she broke through so many ceilings for women, and I think that we can just learn so much just by watching what she did. Like I said, playing by the rules. Sometimes you have to just smile and take it, and when the opportunities come along, be prepared, work hard. And then once you get the clout and the power, you can make your own rules. And that's exactly what she did over a 40-year span, even more so, really. They were talking about her saying that when she was 68, she retired from 2020 and was like, okay, what do I do now? What's next for me at 68? Gotta love that, right? Gotta love that. So there are a few things that we have learned from Barbara Walters. If you would like to know more about Barbara Walters, please read her book, Audition. It's one of my favorites. I have it, and it's one that I keep. Maybe I will reread it now. But a fascinating life from young girl all the way up until the very end. So I honor you, Barbara Walters. I thank you for your work and your service and your trailblazing and doing it all with class. All with class. So thank you, Barbara. When you get a chance, please check out my website. I know that I was talking before about how it's a new website. It is a new website. I have made some recent changes to it. Please give me some feedback on what you think. I do have some services that I offer there on the website, so please let me know if you have any questions about that. And if you have not already, please like and follow this podcast, The Hopefulist with Wendy McClure. Leave me a review if you haven't. This is the best way to help me get the word out, to help me attract other people who enjoy podcasts. And, if you're really feeling generous, please share one of my posts that promotes the podcast, or just send my podcast to somebody you think might enjoy it. I'll be your total best friend if you did something like that. So thank you as always for joining me. Happy New Year. I hope that you have some resolutions and goals set, and you've got a plan for actually attaining them. You can't just set a goal and say, this is what's going to happen. Come up with the plan. Do you have a plan? If not, make it today. Make that plan today. So I thank you as always for joining me. Happy New Year. Now go on out there and be badass. I am always here cheering you on. Thank you for listening to The Hopefulist. Now, don't you feel good? Make sure you come back next week. See you then.